Maybe we get into the Bloodborne bosses before we fall down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, we're gonna do an overall ranking of like Souls and Souls likes later. Because Lies of P fucking sucks and deserves to be in the garbage. First boss, Amygdala.
Um,
Amygdala, I'm not a massive fan of. I don't like uh, the fact that the camera is, adversely impacted by it being just a very large boss. But outside of that, I just find its moveset terribly annoying to deal with. I don't like the lasers that can basically sort of one-shot you in the second phase. It seems also pretty tanky to me, and like it's a pretty lengthy fight for how boring it is. So I probably have Amygdala in C plus, redeemed only by a kind of wacky and cool visual design.
so for that, I'd like to bring up. Um, you might have an experience like I did with Madeir. I'm not equating the two, but you really have to fight this one right in front of him and go for headshots. If you're going underneath, it's not an enjoyable fight. You have to just stay in front and just wait for the right attacks. The lasers aren't so bad when it's like that. You don't get them jumping on you. Um, that being said, it's not even at the same level of what I had Madeir. But I think it is a better fight than people give it credit for. Just because, yeah, there is a certain way to fight it that makes it a lot more enjoyable. Really cool. Cool that you see it. You can see it in the base game, and then you get to fight it later. The area, we don't talk about the area, but the area is terrible. But the fight itself, yeah, cool enemy. It's got some cool attacks as long as you stay where you're supposed to be staying. So I'd give it like a B. High B.
Mm. Um, I can agree with Doc more. Just for the ranking, like it's just yeah, you gotta fight him at a certain point. Like you just gotta take him on head on. Um, like being underneath him is gonna get you stomped on, and then it's just the pain. Um,
You also do way more damage with
yeah,
headshots. It's the same sort of thing as with Madeir.
yeah, exactly. Um, but I don't think that necessarily makes it a better boss fight. You know, like it's still just an annoyance, and the camera is like the main enemy there again. Like it is a protracted fight. Like it can go on for quite a while, depending on how orangey he wants to be. Um, but yeah, all in all, it's just I never look forward to fighting him, but when he's there, it's just like okay, let's just deal with this guy and then be done with it. So yeah, for me, it's a C tier.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just know the first time I uh, fought Amygdala, I hated it. But then on subsequent fights, just staying in front and baiting out the attacks where you can actually get the headshots, it doesn't take as long, and it's actually pretty entertaining.
Yeah, well, I can see that, and like he is like a major thing in the overworld and everything as well. Where when the blood moon is up, that there's like several that you can start seeing them, and they've always been there, but after killing Rom, they become visible, and that
Yeah, if you have
it's
enough insight, you can see them before.
yeah, but
Which I
that's
had tons of it because I used to like go into people's games a lot,
yeah,
and I don't spend things because it's the same as consumables. I don't want to run out. So yeah, I saw them, but it's a cool reveal for sure.
yeah,
Special mention to what Glenn said. I hate the area that you have to go through to get to make the other Nightmare Frontier, whatever it's called.
Yeah, I mentioned that as
Um,
well. It's fucking terrible.
yeah, it's such an awful area.
yeah. The guys throwing rocks, the poison pools,
Ranger
frenzy
Lantern.
guys. Yeah. No, not
Yeah, it's a
Frenzy.
terrible area.
Is it called Frenzy? No, it's not, is it?
Yeah, Frenzy.
Okay, yeah. Um, the positive thing about it, though, we get to see spider patches there.
Spider patches. I don't like
Uh,
spider patches. I actually kind of hate it.
Yeah, it
Me neither.
looks. Yeah, it is. They should not have made patches into that fucking spider. It's just
Yeah,
wrong.
such
It just felt
pandering,
like
and it looks
weird.
dumb
Yeah,
too.
Yeah,
yeah. It just felt like shoehorned in BS.
yeah. Like I think it's definitely like fan service. I think like if they didn't put patches in there one way or another, like the everyone in the Souls community would be like, oh come on, where's fucking patches? But yeah, it's just fan service that they put them in, no other reason.
Yep, I agree.
Bloodstorm Beast.
I like BSB quite a lot. Let me say what I like the most. First off, I like the boss design visually. I think it's what Bloodborne is all about, with a very kind of creepy, mangled, macabre design. I like its moveset by and large. I like that it's a skill check, but a reasonably fair one. In that early-ish part of the game. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of is the poison that it does, that can proc fairly quickly, actually quite quickly. Um, but even that isn't too much of an issue. If you bring fires to the fight in particular, you're probably going to be, in good shape regardless. There's also antidotes, I think, in the arena to aid with the poison, so it's not the worst recipe, but a bit annoying nonetheless. I think I would say it's an A minus fight for me.
For me, this one is like the poison is really bad. I don't like it. It's the same sort of thing. The design is pretty cool. You know, the labia monster, whatever it is, fucking skin flaps going everywhere. That's pretty cool. Pretty gruesome.
It's a fucking
The
cloak he has on, you dick.
No, he's a labia monster. I forget who said that in my chat, but it was hilarious. But yeah, the cool enough design. I think you can see one of them earlier in the area as well, which is pretty cool. But the attacks are fine. Like first go, fair attacks, but just the poison. It's the same sort of thing as with Smelter. It's just an area. It's not even an attack that's giving it to you. They exude it, and it just procs so quickly. I think you also take it procs more if you do get hit.
Mm.
But there's a certain amount of just AoE. He just exudes it, right? So that brought down Smelter, and it does the same thing for Bloodstarved. Once you learn it as well, like once you learn it for Hitless, it's not so bad. A lot of what you can do is just go left, and they always miss you. Like that's all you have to do, and get behind them and do heavy attacks and stuff like that. But the poison really ruins it for me. And it pretty much trivializes him with you just going left. The only thing that can get you is that poison, which I think is bullshit.
What tier did you have him in?
Yeah.
C.
Okay.
For me, he's a B tier. Like I like the fight. He looks, he looks eldritch enough. He looks horror enough. With the misformed thing underneath a cloak, and yeah, and then it's as Killah said, because like that was the first thing that came to my mind when I saw Bloodstorm Beast pop up. Like it's the Smelter Demon thing again, where you just take like with Smelter Demon it's pure damage that you take. At least with Bloodstorm Beast it has to build up first, but it builds up pretty fast. Yeah. You got the fire paper, which again, like I've said this about like 1-1 in Demon Souls. Like with this area as well, it tells you kind of like, okay, you're gonna need antidotes, you're gonna need fire paper, because you find both of those quite a bit in before you actually fight the boss. Um, but if you're struggling with him, that fire paper and that antidote isn't gonna last you very long. Um, like yeah, and then you need to like go farm for either more antidote and more fire paper. Like no, you can't farm for fire paper, but like you can farm for antidote or for blood echoes in order to buy it from the little bat messengers. So yeah, if you have having trouble with it, like it's very punishing to keep your stock up. Um, but it's a fun fight. It's an engaging fight. You got like the NPC you can summon in if you want to. Um, you have like several cheeses for him. You can actually still like even in such a big arena, he still can glitch through the wall. He's susceptible to the lore thing in the game. Beast repellent.
Pungent blood cocktail or whatever the fuck
Those,
it is.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's susceptible to
Yeah.
those. Like you can lure him into a corner, and then he just keeps on running there, and you can wail on him as much as you want. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it's yeah.
I was just responding to Glenn. I just saw his message for the hit list, and yeah, he's talking about what you're mentioning with the pungent cocktails.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I stopped doing that just because it seemed inconsistent. I just fought them straight up because that was better than some of the jank that can happen with that. But that's a cheese. You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, no. I tried getting it off consistently in like a Deathless run, and I couldn't get it consistently either. Like sometimes it just works great, and other times he stays in that corner for like 5 seconds, and then just like, okay, you know what? I've had enough of staring at the wall. I'm gonna kill you now. Yeah, the pungent blood cocktail strat is definitely not like a consistent thing you can do. And sheep, no, I will not help you. Dog, have at him. Uh, so yeah, B tier for me. Which brings us to the Celestial Emissaries.
Interesting boss, visually speaking. But that's pretty much the only compliment I can offer it. It's just a very boring fight. There's very little to look forward to, and it's sort of sad because getting to it is not always something everyone remembers or is obvious. Um, and it's not even redeemed by the fact that it's gatekeeping anything cool. It's gatekeeping Ebritus, who I mean we'll talk about later, but I'm not a big fan of Ebritus either. It's probably a kind of inoffensive C to me, flat C.
Um, yeah, that's. I don't like this fight. It's a D. It's a D for me. The coolest thing about it is when the big fucker comes in, but it's still just a bad fight. Um, yeah, a lot of running around and just not very interesting. They don't even really have moves. They have the one thing. It's yeah, it's just bad.
Yeah, it's a lovely arena. You know, it's like a little garden in like the cathedral. Um, it's you know on second playthroughs and everything, like you know which one you need to kill basically. Um, but it's those enemies that we fought a bunch of times already. You know that are kind of scattered throughout the game. Um, but yeah, I'm wondering like if they had like the second variety, that the caster type, whether or not the fight would have been better. but I think it would just make it even more annoying than it already is. And then welcome in Vault. And I was gonna make the Living Failures joke later on. Fuck you, dude. But uh, the thing that keeps it like I wanted first to say F, but the kind of thing that I kind of like about it, that kind of keeps it out of F for me, is the meme. If you have the Shaman Bone Blades, you can have the little guys kill the big guy, which is kind of a fun little thing you can do. And then, yeah, that keeps him out of F, purely for the meme potential for that.
I didn't actually know that. I always use the shaman thing. I've only used it to defeat the two sharks in the Repudio well.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you target like the actual emissary, the one you need to kill, and you use the Bone Blade once on him, all the little guys will just start chasing him and then kicking his ass. It's very memeable. It's kind of funny to watch because like you'll see the celestial emissary trying to chase you, and in response, he's getting chased by all the other guys. It's funny as fuck. I'll see if I can find the footage of that. But yeah. So yeah, it's going into D tier for me. Cleric Beasts.
Cleric Beast is fine. I don't really enjoy the fight too much because it suffers from some camera issues, as oversized bosses always do with from games. But it's not, a hard fight or anything. There's no moves that feel especially cheap, but also no moves that feel especially memorable. It's kind of annoying that beating it leads you nowhere. It just is an echo drop essentially. I would probably say B minus.
I like this fight. I think it's a good intro fight. It is the one I found first. I know you can miss it, but I think a lot of people found this one first. Yeah, no, I think it's a good introduction boss. There are camera issues if you're getting too close in there. He can get janky on some parts, but I think he's fair. He's not too tough. You can hit him with Molotovs if you want to. Yeah, no, he's cool. Does he drop like any sort of badge or something?
Yeah, he drops a badge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I think for the other starter weapons.
No, the other starter weapons you can already get. I think. Wait, no. I think it's one extra weapon there. I think it's like the starting weapons, but one extra weapon.
Yeah, it was
One or
pretty
two.
lame that it leads nowhere. It leads to a door, the most mysterious door in the world. But yeah, at least you got that with it. I forget what it does, but I did know you got something, so at least there's that. But his attacks, I like them. His aesthetic is really cool. Again, we got Manus again, and Demon of Hatred. I got a thing for the arms. But yeah, I'd get him like a low A, high B. I think I'd put him like A minus.
Yeah. For me, it's on par with Bloodstorm Beast. Like again, the weakness to fire, like a lot of the things in Bloodborne have. Like it is a fun enough fight on like a first playthrough. If that's your first boss. He has what is just subjectively, no, objectively the best way to enter any arena, because it's the same one that Thor's Demon has.
The best boss ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I just like the thing with that section of the bridge, because you're just walking onto a bridge again. Like the first time I got there, it also didn't feel like you were stepping into a boss arena. There wasn't a fog gate. There wasn't nothing special about it. It was just like another little stretch, and I just imagined like you walk up there and then you had to like open the gate there, and then you just you're bombarded into a boss fight. Um, and it's not a hard boss fight, but it is like an enjoyable one. And then it's a precursor to a lot of the bosses, basically. Um, yeah, Bloodstorm Beast, Dark Beast Pearl, that are kind of, in the same class as Cleric Beast. Sort of in design, and like, the more beastly things. But yeah, he's going to be tier for me, on par with Bloodstorm Beast. Which brings us to our shocking friend, Dark Beast Pearl.
Uh, Dark Beast Paul, or Dark Beast Camera as he is better known, is another one of those oversized bosses who fucks up the camera several times over the course of the fight. Um, there are some things I like about him. I like how he looks visually. I like the electricity effect on him. I like some of his attacks, but a lot of him is just uh, waiting for him to, get through his energy or his zoomies, if you will, getting underneath him and just clobbering him. I don't find it, for those reasons to be an especially interesting fight. I'd probably, accounting for the camera issues and the generally annoying moveset, place him in a B minus as well, or maybe actually a C plus.
Yeah, I definitely have him in the C. He's pretty annoying. He like really breaks the camera. It's very hard to deal with. His aesthetic is cool, but you can't see it. If you're underneath him, you can break his limbs, I think, pretty easily, and that's the way to do it. You just kind of stun lock him to death. For whatever reason, I couldn't do that in my first playthrough. I think I got there quite early because I got grabbed by one of those, whatever they're called, jailers.
Sack
So
boys.
I was pretty low
The bag
leveled when I
boys.
got there. Yeah, the bag boys. But yeah, I'd have it like a low C.
Yeah, I have him on par with Bloodstorm Beast and Cleric Beast. In the B tier. So yeah, you can get there pretty early if you're getting grabbed by the Sack boys. But if you're not if you're not grabbed, like you fight him near almost the end of the game, where he's just a complete pushover. I think like he's just in front of the one Reborn if you go through normal playthrough, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in Yahagul.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that kind of makes it like if you're fighting him like when you're meant to fight him, like before the one Reborn, like it's a pushover fight, because at that point you should actually have the damage to like break his limbs and get him out of that electricity phase quite quickly, and then wail on him. Like you still need to do that several times before you kill him. But yeah, I just think it's a solid enough fight, and I didn't have any of the camera issues you guys were mentioning with this fight. I think he moves kind of fast sometimes that it's hard to follow if you don't have the lock on. But other than that, I never really had much camera issues with him.
I mean, speaking to that bit about him being much easier later on in the game, I still am not sure why From doesn't use dynamic scaling. Like, it really does fuck up a lot of the boss encounters. Even in Elden Ring, for example, when you get overpowered and visit some bosses that you may have avoided they end up being like 2 or 3 shots hit, even if it's like really late game. I think that's, yeah, it's really a shame. They really need to think about dynamic scaling.
I don't agree. I because I mean dynamic scaling that would like all the challenge runs would be piss easy at that point. You could then do like all the bosses in any order you want, basically. Like I'm not a fan of dynamic scaling in any game. Like in like something like an open world game, maybe it makes more sense. But
That's not how dynamic scaling works, though. I think what you're thinking is like, oh, I'll just run to Gwyn, and Gwyn will be like rune level 1. But that's not how it works. There's still like gates you have to pass that are level appropriate. But what it just means is that optional bosses that are like in optional areas will scale with you. So to some degree, like there's a range within which they scale. So if you're like level 100 and you come to fight Paul, who's clearly meant to be fought very early on, then he'll be, within a band a little bit harder, so he's more of a challenge, and you don't just like 3-shot him.
I no. Like the thing is like if you're going into some let's say cleric beast, because I think Pearl you kind of fight later on. Let's say we fight cleric beast as like one of the last bosses you fight. Um, like I think it kind of plays into the power fantasy and that um that
So
we got
you
wrong.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because then you have to fight the boss, and we've established that Ginge doesn't like fighting bosses.
And
Ah.
also, you have to remember, it's like still a band, right? So, like, let's say, I mean, to take your example, let's say Cleric Beast is designed to be fought at blood level 10. Let's say, hypothetically. In the dynamic scaling thing, he would be scaled at max, no matter what your level is, to maybe like BL like 30 or so, so that he's a bit more of a challenge and he doesn't just like keel over and die when you enter into the arena. But at the same time, he isn't broken either, where he suddenly is now harder than Gurman. I think that's fair because that makes some of the mid game bosses that you forget about or avoid for a bit more of a challenge. It's also good for a game like more linear games like DS1, where, for example, a lot of people have raised this as a criticism of DS1 that like some of the Lord Souls end up feeling a lot easier after you've come having beaten the other Lord Souls because they're all kind of roughly the same difficulty, but you keep leveling up throughout. So yeah, having that dynamic scaling might make those portions of the game a little bit more challenging and interesting for the player.
Yeah, when you started off describing it, I'm kind of on the fence either way, but the way you were explaining it right there kind of does make sense because and for a reason that Ginge brought up, like it would work in an open world game, but like a lot of the things in these games are semi-open world, right? There's different paths you can take. So like Doc said, you can get to certain Lord Souls and be overpowered. But yeah, if it's a certain range that they're doing, I think there's a way to implement it that would work. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, maybe it's kind of. I think about it, kind of reminisces for me to World of Warcraft. Like that was like the first big game that I've ever played. Well, I mean, not on PC at least. Um, and like, well, what World of Warcraft does is that you have like the map open, and you can kind of hover on the section you're in, and it says like the recommended level is between level 0 and 10. And then you follow a road, you come into the next section, and you see it on the map. It says from 10 to like 15. Next section is 15 to, and then depending on where you start in the game, there's like several areas you can go to that are like between level 15 and level 25. That you do have options of where you go, but at the level cap, well, not level cap, but that the enemies there are roughly the same level. Um, but I think that that's kind of the way they did it in Elden Ring. Um, that the Urnia and Limgrave are, I mean, roughly on the same level, I would say. Same with Caled and Altus. Like I think Dragon Barrow is actually higher than normal Caled. But yeah, I just like I can see a case for it where you say like that all the Lord Souls, for instance, or that they scale up. Like if you have one Lord Soul, the next one is going to be like slightly higher level. If you already have two Lord Souls, the next one is going to be higher. But then I think back about some of the challenge runs I did, and then I've just done like all the Dark Souls 2 editing. And the thing that kind of struck me there is for a lot of my challenge runs, for instance, with bow only and with fist weapons, I left Spelter Demon, a fight I absolutely hate doing in any challenge run. Like I left them until like after I've beaten the game, beaten the Chandra, because then at that point coming back to it, it's just a lot easier, and I get that kill in my box. I get that like okay, I killed that boss now when I'm doing like all bosses there. Um, I think it really would mess with certain routing of like how you play the games for from a challenge runner standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. I mean, I'm not a challenge runner, so I can't really put myself in those shoes. I guess my thinking on that, and I don't want us to spend too much time on this because we've still got a bunch of bosses. But I guess my thinking on that is that yeah, I think Elden Ring actually did it a little bit better than the previous From games, as there is a sort of natural progression between the areas, both in terms of map progression, but also difficulty progression. But having said that, there are moments, for example, just to take a hypothetical. Let's say you fight Commander O'Neill in the Swamp of Aeonia, and he's absolutely, tearing you apart, and you're unable to fight him. The problem with Elden Ring becomes that if you don't, come back to him fairly soon, um, you are robbed of a interesting and fun fight where you get the feeling of getting good at him because you just come back overpowered and can, essentially two or three shot him. And I think that leaves you feeling very empty with a lot of the bosses. You don't feel like you beat him because you got better at the game. You just feel like you beat him because you have superior powers and tools now, which to me is a little bit underwhelming at times. But I do think Elden Ring did it better than some of the previous games.
And then welcome in Salty.
Hey, salty. Yeah, like I said, I'm on the fence about it. The one thing I will say about challenge runs is they'll just find a way.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah. No, I think, and then like I want to have a proper discussion about this at some point. But like Lords of the Fallen has done it right. Like I know it's no one's favorite game, and it's also not mine. Like, but I'm going for like the platinum right now, and like at the end of the game, they give you the option of starting New Game Plus One or New Game Plus Zero. Like New Game Plus Zero is the same game, new game that you've already played, no extra difficulty. Um, Whereas plus one, ramps up the difficulty again, and I kind of like that idea. Like it kind of implements like both sides here. Um,
And
for like a challenge runner or for like a completionist, New Game Plus Zero is just something great. Um, yeah.
yeah, I'm not surprised you said that because that's that's again, you don't have to fight things.
No, you still have to fight.
It's like
Trust me. Like,
just blitzing through Lords of the Fallen with Endgame.
No,
Like,
but that being said, it is fun to be able to just like to a certain extent, it's fun to go through and just dummy everything.
yeah.
So there's a novelty to it.
yeah, no,
Yeah, but it is interesting to me that they haven't really ever even tried dynamic scaling, given that it's actually a pretty standard um, mechanic in the ARPG genre. And maybe they will at some point.
I think it would be interesting if they gave that as an option, and that you don't have to have it. But it's like, I mean, they've talked about the past from stuff that they don't want to, put in a difficulty scaling. But I think that that's something like an option to have like dynamic scaling or not dynamic scaling. That would be interesting.
Yeah. I'd
Do you
like the
mean
record to
in
show.
terms of like a easy and hard mode?
Kind of.
Like as a replacement for it, instead of giving players that.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be a replacement because what that would essentially mean is hard and harder mode.
Yeah.
Because dynamic scaling would be the harder mode. I don't think the people who complain about FromSoft difficulty would be placated by that. But I would like to see it as a veteran, and I think a lot of veterans would enjoy that.
And I think Killah wanted something on the record.
Oh yeah, I just wanted on the record that we've spent the most amount of time out of any boss on Dark Beast Parl.
That's not true. Trust me, when you see the fucking footage of DS2, how long we talked about fucking Ava, Jesus fucking Christ.
That is a good boss, though.
I think I have it in B tier.
Yeah.
and Dark Beast Parl is in B tier. It's consistent.
Yeah.
Who's next? Abby?
Yeah, Abritus.
Abby is a very cool looking boss. I think visually she's very impressive. I like discovering her. Although I unfortunately sort of knew, where she is and how you get to her. I think it's a cool secret, and I'm sure people who played Bloodborne on launch found her fun to discover. I also like, her lore as best as I understand it anyway. But the fight I find dreadfully boring. A lot of it is just, a case of trying to get behind her and staying behind her as much as you can. I despise the very short notice head bash she does that does a lot of damage. I don't like the lasers that do a lot of damage. It's just a very boring fight. Probably making a concession for her visual design and how you discover her, maybe a B- for me.
Yeah,
and the charge sucks too. Yeah, she's right about the charge.
Yeah, the charge is what I was gonna. The two things I was gonna talk about. The headbutt's not so bad. The charge is annoying, and a call beyond. She has like a call beyond type thing as well. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, and that thing is a pain in the ass. That being said, I actually like this boss. Her visual is just incredible, just absolutely disgusting, terrifying, but beautiful at the same time. The rest of her attacks, I think, are, I don't know, they're interesting. The lasers, I'm okay with the lasers. They look really cool. She has an amazing aesthetic, and yeah, the two moves I talked about bring it down a little bit. But yeah, I think there are ways to deal with it. I'm trying to be, because I was thinking A right now, but like the charge is not quite Gaius level, but it's similar. Yeah, probably like a high B.
Yeah. I have it in low B. But the charge is annoying. And as you say, like it's not that bad compared to some other charges in the FromSoft catalog. The call beyond is, I hate that move. Like if you're attacking her at that point and you're running low on your stamina, you're dying. Right? That it comes way too fast. You're gonna get hit. Like it punishes like not necessarily poor stamina management, but it punishes taking the opening there when she charges it. Um, when the lore behind her, like that she is like the one of the first old ones or whatever they're called to like be fallen to
Great ones.
great ones. That's the one. They're like fallen to Earth basically, or that visited that visited Yharnam. Kind of cool. And yeah, it's just like I think because it's an optional. I would say B. Like if it wasn't an optional fight, like if you had to do it each time and each time deal with the charge, each time deal with the call beyond, I would say C. But yeah, it's low B for me. Which brings us to Father Gascoigne.
Now we're on a fucking streak right here. Now we got some bangers coming up.
Yep.
Yeah, Gaza is a banger. Absolutely. I think he is. I mean, if there was no sort of debate on who the tutorial boss of Bloodborne is, I would say Gaza is the best tutorial boss From has ever put out because he breaks down Bloodborne into all its constituent elements: aggression, dashing, parrying for quick damage and big damage at that. Or using the oil, using Molotov cocktails, using the arena to your advantage, everything. You get a bit of it all in that fight. So I think it's very enjoyable. I love his little side story as, a hunter who uh, was corrupted by the hunt essentially and turned to, kill the very people that he was, trying to protect and, is somebody who essentially cannot have enough of hunting, if you will. Side note, I think he actually has a very, very good OST, which is often overlooked by people. I feel like that OST is Bloodborne personified in many ways. It just captures the overarching themes of the game really well. So yeah, he's a S tier for me. One of my favorite bosses From has ever put out. I think he's in my top 15.
Yeah, Gascoigne is the best tutorial boss. I like him better than Gundyr. Yeah, he's just fantastic. The only if for everything Doc named, like all his attacks, his aesthetic, the cutscene, his lore, like it's really cool that you can also get an item like that music box mechanic. Very cool. And it ties into like a mini quest you can do. And then afterward, you can find that brooch or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's super cool. The the OST is amazing. The one thing that kind of takes away from it is the arena's cool, just the graves sometimes are annoying. But can he break those?
He
Am I
can.
remembering incorrectly?
He can. The player can't.
Yeah, okay, he can break them. Yeah, so it's kind of like I forget the other fight we were talking about, but they could break Manus. Manus breaks them. It's the same sort of thing. I hate them, but at least they can be broken. So that's not too big of a problem. The rest of the arena is actually really cool that you can run upstairs, there's drop down that roof where you can actually get the red jeweled. But yeah, it's a really cool arena. There's some stuff you can use to your advantage. There's a couple things that'll get in your way, but yeah, S tier for sure.
Yeah, exactly. S tier. It's a great fight, and then I still remember like the first time that I fought him. When you get him down to like 1/3 health, then all of a sudden it's like the face transition. And the first time that happened, I did not see that coming. I did not expect it at all. Or you're in the fight, you're thinking you're fighting a normal human type enemy, and then all of a sudden you're in a beast fight. A very aggressive beast fight, like way more aggressive than Gascoigne himself. Um, and yeah, like the whole storyline around him, with the music box, with the brooch, with and later in the sewers, the kid being eaten by the giant pig. Like you have the option to basically wipe out his entire family, or to save them all, which is yeah, it's S tier. Like it's so amazing. Like everything about him. Also, great
Now,
cheese.
was the trailer and his music the same?
I don't know. I'm not into OSTs.
I forget what the trailer music was. Yeah,
I
I can't
think
remember.
it was like a mix. I
Yeah.
think they do feature his music briefly, but it's not like the entirety of it.
Yeah.
It might also be, at a different pacing. For example, when you listen to Rolana's song in the fight, it's a lot different from that the strings they pulled in the first trailer for the DLC.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Gurman.
Gurman used to be my joint second most favorite FromSoft boss behind Gale. Recently dislodged from that position by Al Father. I really, really like this fight. Again, the fights I think I really enjoy are the ones that bring all of the constituent elements of the game together in one final hard test. And I think Gurman is that. He is a guy who is very aggressive, but at the same time has parryable attacks that you can really, learn and master. He's quick, so you have to be quick with him and know when to dash and strafe and when to backstep. His moveset is a lot of fun. His weapon is very cool. The arena is gorgeous. And I think he also has very impressive lore, again, as best as I understand it. I'm not a huge Bloodborne lore fanatic, but his lore I do know a little bit about and really enjoy. He has a very good OST. A lot of people, again, miss the OST, but it's actually quite poignant and beautiful. And I just love the idea of fighting a guy who's actually not a bad guy. He's trying to spare you, suffering and trying to put you down to put an end to your suffering, but obviously your will to live forces you to be at odds with him, and he ends up fighting with you over that fundamental question of whether you should suffer or not. So I think it's a great fight. Straight S tier. High S tier.
Yeah, same for me, S tier for sure. Yeah, for everything Doc mentioned, to talk about the lore as well. He's just like, again, he might be the best bad guy. It's hard to tell if he's even a bad guy. He seems like a good guy because he's trying to keep you from his fate, basically, because one of the endings is just you become him, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, he's there. It's really cool that he's there the whole time. It's got that Ishin feel to it as well, where he's just the dude. He's helping you out. He's just there, and then at the end of the game, he's who you have to kill. I also really like that he just kills you. I accidentally did that as my first ending and ruined the game because I thought I was doing the right thing, which arguably it might be. But yeah, that ended it. So that's actually kind of weird that they don't, because that just sends you right into new game as well. It's like DS1.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fight's amazing. He's really cool. The cripple guy who's just like, oh no, I'm actually really tough, and he can go around, use the same things you do. Just very good fight. And yeah, the OST is very good as well. And the arena, you get the Sekiro beginning arena slash Ishin. It's got the same feel to it. I just like that aesthetic.
Anytime you see a wide open arena with flowers in a FromSoft game, be prepared to have your shit pushed in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
And-
gave us the old misdirect on the Elden Ring DLC trailer. I really thought something was going to happen there.
I haven't seen the trailers for Elden Ring. I don't really watch trailers. But
Yeah, there was one. It was with all the blue flowers, and it looked like you were fighting some sort of NPC type boss.
And then welcome back, Caleb. See, I agree with everything that's being said. However, I have him in A tier, and I'm for the same reason that I did with Soul of Cinder. I know that trick weapons are the whole name of the game, but it kind of annoyed me during the Gurman fight. Because in one of his phases, like one of the trick weapon stages that he does, like he has such clear and open parry windows that you can really punish. And then next one he doesn't. And then like it's 3 stages, I believe. And then like in the next one it's again like, okay, take a chance. And then I would much rather have him like trick weapon is one thing, like switch on the fly. But yeah, it's a sort of Cinder thing where it's like very distinct stages and he switches between them, and I don't necessarily like that. I mean, his moveset is varied enough in all the stages. Like he's aggressive, he has great lore. The arena is beautiful. But yeah, I have him in A purely for the whole switching it up so much.
I mean, I personally, just to respond to that, really like the switch up because I think it's him pulling the Bloodborne thing that you've been exploiting throughout the game on you, and I really enjoy dealing with both the great sword, let's call it curved great sword version of the burial blade, and the scythe version. But I mean, I understand that you're not a fan of that.
Yeah, it just didn't like because there's 3 things he can do with it, isn't there? Like, isn't there like one where he has just a normal curved greatsword thing that he either does or doesn't use, like either a blunderbuss or a normal pistol? Or am I misremembering here? Because I
He
think
has, yeah, 3 elements: the curved greatsword, the scythe, and the gun. And the gun stays with him when he has the curved greatsword out, but when he has the scythe, he do 2 hands the scythe.
yeah. So it's yeah, it's a Soul of Cinder thing for me that it's kind of annoying me. Like on second playthroughs, definitely. Like well on subsequential playthroughs. Um, but it's still like great fight, great arena, great lore. He goes into A for me. And welcome back in, Mary. Too. Welcome. Lady Maria.
Maria was my joint second most favorite FromSoft boss alongside German, before they were both pushed back by Allfather. Again, just a fantastic fight. I like her arena quite a lot. You know, the idea of fighting inside a clock tower is kind of novel and cool. I really enjoy her moveset. I love the 3 kind of distinct phases. Each of the add-ons with each of the phases I find quite compelling and fun to negotiate with. She's very quick, but if you learn her moves, there's certainly attacks that you can parry and get a lot of damage off on. Sometimes the range on some of her blood attacks can be a little bit too generous given the size of the arena, but even then, I think that if you learn the timing of the dash, it's pretty easily negotiated. So yeah, for me, she's a guaranteed high S tier boss.
Yeah, same for me. S tier, she's so fucking cool when you walk in there and she's just sitting there looking at you under her hat. And yeah, her OST is also very good. Her move set is fantastic. Their phase transitions as well. You see her getting more and more desperate. I remember somebody pointing it out. I was watching some video and just saying like she's legitimately just breaking her own beliefs just to try and keep you from going over there to where they committed all those atrocities. The lore is really cool on that. But yeah, just S tier fight for sure. Point out
Yep.
where her weapon is. Her weapon is in the best place, and it's so awesome trying to get it. It's amazing. Don't bring shaman bone blades.
Uh, yeah, fully agree. Like it's such a great fight. Um, and the thing is, like I've said this about Gurman about like how he switches things up with his moveset, but I don't have a problem with Lady Maria. Like, Lady Maria is like she changes 3 times throughout the fight as well, but I feel like she gives it a lot more interesting, a lot more engaging. Maybe it's just the lore behind it that she's doing it, that she's breaking her beliefs or what she stands for just to get you away from the fishing hamlets. Um, but yeah, it's such an amazing fight. I just wanna boast a little bit and say that like the first time I ever fought her was in the whip only run, and I did her first try. Haven't managed to beat her since, but I love that fight. Like it's so fucking good. I love everything about Lady Maria.
I will note that Sheep is spot on about the well. I think it's really BS that you have to do that well to get her weapon, which is actually a very cool and very powerful weapon to use. And I also think it's very unfortunate that by the time you secure the weapon, you really only have Cause, Gurman, and Moon presence left in the base game. So yeah, I think that's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sharks on their own individually suck, and then they
Yeah,
put two of them in that well. And
yeah.
yeah, you have to. You don't have to. I guess you can fight them. It's terrible fighting them, but you need to use the shaman bone blade to stab one so they kill each other. It's kind of. I'm just realizing now it was the Erdtree Burial Watchdogs before.
Yeah, I'm no fan of the sharks. I think Bloodborne actually has 3 or 4 enemy types that I would put in the top 10 like worst from soft enemy types. And that's one of the reasons why it's kind of like one of the mid from soft titles for me. I just don't enjoy fighting a lot of the regular enemies.
I mean, the sharks have some bullshit. Like if you fight them one on one, they're not that bad. I feel. Um, but they just fucking look so amazing. Like I love their visual. Uh, yeah, but yeah, fighting two of them at the same time is just fucking abysmal. And anywhere like they always show up when there's other enemies around as well. It's not fun fighting them. If you have them one on one, like I said, it's an okay, but like visually, I just fucking love them.
Yeah.
And then yeah, the enemies from Bloodborne, the brain suckers, the winter lanterns, they fucking suck. Um, Lawrence, the first figure.
Um, I love Lawrence's lore. Um, and actually, if you could fucking hear it, his OST might be the best OST in the game. Unfortunately, the bastard screams so loud that you're never gonna actually hear anything of his OST. The fight, I have to say, is probably. I mean, it's the second worst fight in the DLC for me, and generally just a very annoying fight. Phase one is essentially cleric beast with more fire and more juice. Phase two is where it gets dreadfully annoying. He has a trail of lava that he generates that follows him everywhere and basically submerges the arena. That makes it a real chore to kind of deal with him. There's only a very small part of his body that he can take damage in, and that you need to keep finding in order to get damage off on him, which is also very annoying given how much HP he has. He keeps screaming. He doesn't shut the fuck up, which is infuriating. I don't like the run back to him because you have to run all the way from the lamp past a bunch of enemies, and then that awful Cthulhu-looking bastard at the entrance, who is another enemy type I despise in Bloodborne. Yeah, I mean, I'll be generous because of that banger of an OST and say C plus.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just not a huge fan of the fight. I don't remember having too much trouble with it. It doesn't stand out. Like I know I didn't beat it quickly, but doesn't stand out as being painfully unfair. But not a big fan of it. You would expect something better. You've been hearing about Lawrence all the time, so I would have liked a better fight. But yeah, him just blowing up and turning into a lava monster was not fun. They've done a few of those kind of fights, and this is one of the worst ones they've done. Um, Probably the worst one. I'd put it at a C. It wasn't like overly bad.
Um, I think I have it at B. Um, like it is just like cleric beast on fire, and then as Killah points out, like they did kind of hype him up during the DLC, as him being the first figure. Um, and it is kind of disappointing the way then that he turned out. But yeah, I think it's very colored for me by the fact that I again did this like the first time I played the DLC was blind with whip only. I mean a blind playthrough, not that I did it blind, but yeah, and with the whip, like with the lava on the ground, it was very easy to keep distance, to like not be in the lava pools. So I didn't have the same melee experience basically as a lot of other people have. Um, and that's probably coloring my judgment of him a bit by placing him higher than the both of you have. Um, yeah, it's a B tier for me. All right, time to talk about me. What do you guys think?
I really, really, really hate the living failures.
Thanks, Dom.
They are the half-light of the fucking DLC, but somehow worse because Half-Life, doesn't have an attack that can essentially one-shot you if you're not standing in the right position. Living failures, unfortunately, do. Um, they're just thoroughly uninteresting, very, very annoying to fight. They do a lot of damage, but at the same time, it's not particularly hard to evade them. It's just a really weird kind of throwaway fight they put in before one of the best bosses they've ever designed. Um, I don't know. I want to say F. I'm very tempted to say F, particularly because of that awful out of this world supernatural sort of attack they do once they transition phases. But I'm gonna be kind and say D minus.
For me, it's an F. It's just not. It's just not fun. It's not interesting. The OST, I can't remember the OST at the moment, so it can't drag me out. It might be good. I can't recall what it was, but no, it's just not good. They're not interesting the way they attack. That one attack is bullshit. I guess you just have to hide behind that rock or whatever it was.
Yep.
I'm not even sure how that works, but yeah, it's just a bad fight. And the rest of the DLC makes it look even worse. But even if it was in the base game, I think it would probably maybe I'd give it a D. But yeah, for them to bring it back for the DLC, I'm sure there's some sort of lore explanation, but it's not good enough.
Yeah, there is like a lore explanation for it, but even like with the lore, it's still a shitty fight. And then like yeah, when they all go all dark and then start throwing those light orbs or whatever they are at you, like if you get caught, you die. Simple as that. Like you can have your vigor leveled up, vigor or vitality, whatever it is in Bloodborne. Like, you can have it leveled up to like 99, and you're just fucked. Um, the only safe place I find for that attack is inside of the doors. So when you enter, you push those doors open, like they stay like open at like a 45-degree angle, and then you can kind of like hide in them. But even then, you're still kind of in danger of sometimes getting clipped, depending on where they come from. Um, I think it would be a better fight if they like make a distinction between the ones that are melee and the ones that are magic. Um, because like some of them are then super aggressive in melee, some of them just lumber about, and others just stand still, throwing their magic shit around. Like if there was like a distinction that you could see, like okay, like this is one of the magic guys, they're giving me the most trouble, or the melee guys are giving me the most trouble, that you can like target them down, that would have been a lot easier to deal with. Um, but their health pool is also just too big. Like if you could kill them in like 2 hits for each one, or maybe 3, it would be fine. But yeah, they take a lot of punishment before they actually go down, depending on your weapon and everything. But yeah, they're going into F tier for me. Another DLC fight is Ludwig the Holy Blades.
Ludwig is, again, from a lore perspective, a very iconic and important boss in Bloodborne. I do appreciate that aspect of him. A lot of people say he has the best OST in From history. Personally, I beg to differ. I like it, but I've never been so moved by it. Um, as far as the fight itself is concerned, I find Phase 1 quite annoying. I think it suffers from some camera issues. I think some of his moves are very annoying to deal with as they sort of come slightly from off screen and hit you pretty hard. If he, charges at you or jumps down upon you, then you best expect, a visit to the lamp once again. But if you are able to survive phase 1, I think phase 2 definitely is very cool. It has obviously the iconic cutscene where he pulls out, the Moonlight Greatsword, which is always going to be cool. I think he has, much clearer telegraphs and tells come phase 2, and his attacks in general are more interesting to dodge in that phase. So I'm probably, going to take all of it into account and say he's an A. Um, but yeah, just short of elite for me.
For me, I love his OST. Fantastic, especially Phase 2. Phase 1, like the whole thing in Phase 1 is a little. No, it's not disappointing. It's just in comparison to the second phase, it's just a little worse. The worst thing about the Phase 1, I find, is just that one attack where he disappears. I know you can see the attack
Mm.
by the blood drops or whatever it is, but yeah, no, it's just not appealing to me, those kind of attacks. And even still, running away from the blood, I feel like the hitboxes on that attack are off. But yeah, then in phase 2, amazing cutscenes. Really cool to see, especially when you get in there and it's just like you you expect no humanity coming from this, and it's just a complete change. And same with the OST. At that moment, it's just fantastic, and the fight mechanics in phase 2 are great. I think some of those things in phase 1 do pull it down, probably to like a high A.
Um, yeah. Um, yeah, him pulling out the Moonlight Greatsword in the transition to second phase is just amazing. Um, the yeah phase one is just it's a lot harder to deal with than phase two. Like he's I feel like he's more dangerous in phase two, or at least with the cutscene and the way he acts, you're meant to find him more dangerous. But I found him a lot easier to deal with in phase two. Whereas yeah, phase one is kind of more like it has some random bullshit in there. And then as Killa points out, definitely like the whole jumping up thing, and then with the blood drops. Um, I think I've managed to dodge it maybe once or twice. But every time he does, like almost every time he does that, I'm gonna get hit there. Um, but yeah, lore wise, he's amazing. The fact that you have like his little talking head after the fight, great little detail. And, like his dialogue, even I'm not a dialogue man. But even like what he says is kind of cool. His OST I can comment as I've mentioned, like I don't really do the whole OST thing. My music is always almost off. Yeah, he goes high A tier. He only gets like out of S because of that phase one. The Gobst unlocks, yeah. Logarius.
Big fan of Logarius. Logarius is again in my top 10. I think he's like 10th on my all-time FromSoft list. I really like his lore and his story. I think it's super cool as to why he is sitting on that throne where he is, and why he's guarding what he's guarding. Guarding being loosely, used there. The fight itself, I think, is a lot of fun. I love the fact that it's on a rooftop. It's a kind of nice throwback to loads of earlier FromSoft fights, but it also just feels very iconic and kind of cinematic to fight the boss in what I consider to be my favorite area in all of Bloodborne, Kano's castle, right on top of a roof. I'm a big fan of his moves. I think there's a strong variety to them. A lot of them can be parried. A lot of them can be turned to your advantage. I even like the skulls because he embeds his staff into the ground, and if you shatter it, the skulls disappear, which I think is very cool. Um, I love the OST. It really heightens the tension of the fight and adds a little something to it. I think the only criticism I have is, and this is not from personal experience, because I beat the boss first try, but I have seen people do the run back, and the run back is a bit of a pain. It's not difficult or anything, it's just incredibly time consuming, and I personally feel there's no need for it. But barring that, I cannot think of anything to fault the boss on. It's in very high S tier for me.
For me, the fight itself is very good. Like all the attacks, all the punishes you can get off with it, the look of all his attacks. So that one in phase 2, is that skulls it's shooting out? For some reason, I thought it was like he puts his sword in the ground. Is that not a thing?
Yeah, he puts his sword in the ground, and that's where skulls come from.
Okay, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't like that. I don't like that. It doesn't seem. First of all, it doesn't seem like you should be able to hit that, so it just seems like a bullshit move. That being said, I guess you can accidentally lock onto it.
Mm.
So that's how you figure it out. Storm of Swords. That's what I thought it was. I thought it was swords coming out. The skulls are his magic attacks, right? It's
It's
been
Yeah, I
a
might be
while since I
conflating
fought
the
it.
two.
the Storm
Yeah,
of
I thought it was
Swords.
swords shooting at you. The Yeah, that I'm not a big fan of. Because also I think like I don't know, it's just hard to hit it with him moving around. He also has where he can jump off screen, if I'm remembering correctly. Not completely off, but he can jump up where it's very hard to see him. And I know that is a very good parry opportunity if you have the timing down on it.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, again, I don't like when I can't see things in games. That being said, everything else is top tier. Um, like his move set is definitely S tier, other than what I just pointed out. The jumping one, you can get the parry on it on the timings, and
Mm.
you can technically see him. It's not the same as with Ludwig. Um, but yeah, the rooftop, it looks cool. As far as the way it works, I think it's fine. You have some places you can hide. It's pretty cool. The look of him himself, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of it. Like I don't know. He just looks too lanky, too spindly. It's kind of the same thing I had about Mesmer as well in the trailer, but it ended up being cool in the game. But he just looks kind of wienery. Um, it kind of makes sense because I don't know. He's all rotted, I guess, or just emaciated.
Mm.
But that kind of let me down. But all that said, I put him just under Ludwig. I prefer Ludwig to Logarius. But there's a couple things. That sword was just yeah, the sword was annoying.
Um, yeah, I like Cainhurst Castle as a whole. I love the final boss of it. Like Logarius is a great boss. I never really had much trouble with like the sword thing. Um, because the sword does shatter in like one shot. Like if you at least have like one bullet still left, you can just shoot it once and it shatters. So I didn't find it that much of an annoyance. Like I usually have it shattered like the moment he has it down on the floor. Um, Even like design wise, it's King Zombie. It's like yeah, he's a zombie, but he's like a, a royal zombie basically, and I kind of like that. Like the site also makes kind of sense in that regard. Parry windows are definitely there. Very easy to get him like in a parry loop. Um, and the run back. I mean, the good thing about the run back is that you don't have to fight any enemies. But the thing that annoys me about that run back is that there is one drop you have to do that you take damage on. Like, I think if you didn't take damage on that drop, I would have minded so much. Like, it's a very minor thing, but just like taking that little bit of extra damage there for a drop that shouldn't do damage is kind of um, an annoyance. Like, it's small detail, I know, but yeah, that's the only thing that really bugs me about the run back. Um, but other than that, I have him in S tier. Like, I think he's a better fight than Ludwig. Um, Margot's wet nose.
Margot's wet nurse is, I think, a real wet blanket in terms of excitement at the end of the game.
How long have you been waiting to make that
Uh,
joke?
no, I just came up with it actually. You know, some of us are just witty and can
Hey,
come with things off the cuff, Ginge.
Ginge hit the wet nose one too. That was on purpose, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Uh, I think she's a terrible disappointment, and I feel very sorry for people who killed her and then accepted Gurman's offer because then she's essentially the final boss of the game. Um, she looks very cool visually. The arena is very atmospheric and eerie. I enjoy her lore. I like the baby crying in the background. It's kind of creepy and then disconcerting. But her moveset is so dreadfully boring. I mean, it's almost comically boring. There's almost no variety to it. It's just a couple of swipes, you know, this way, that way, underneath you, from above. There's just nothing very interesting. None of those swipes are particularly hard to dodge. The thing she does in the second phase, where you know she turns the arena to pitch black and you know summons a clone and you know goes on a mad zoomy around the arena is pretty boring and stupid in my view. It's ridiculously easy to deal with if you just run around after her or even you know against her. Um, uh, Sort of tether or pathing, if you will. Yeah, it's just a great kind of concept let down by a very poor series of mechanics within the fight. I wanted to go B minus, but having thought through it while I speak about it, I'm probably going to actually go C because, yeah, that late in the game, you want something a little bit more memorable.
Yeah, I have it about the same, like a high C, almost in a B. Same sort of things. Looks really cool. Um, the attacks, it's the lawnmower. The attacks are like fine, other than the lawnmower. It's a very boring attack. She has the two attacks where it's just you're running away and you just have to run away for a while and that's it. Which, yeah, those kind of dodges that you have to do aren't always the best. Very rarely are they satisfying or just even not annoying. But yeah, then she has that the where she turns it pitch black. You can actually dodge that, which is interesting. But yeah, it's a bad attack. She looks cool. Um, when she goes pitch black, so I've said several times I don't like when you can't see things, but I actually do like the aesthetic of it. It's just there's too many clones, and you just end up running in a circle,
Mm.
and yeah, it's just not very good. And this was my last boss because I did take death.
Oh, poor you. Um, I can agree with everything that's being said here. Um, you know, it has an eerie vibe to it with like the baby and like the way she enters the arena like above the it's not a crib but like the stroller. Um, then she spoils it by breaking it with her very first attack. But yeah, it's just it's a cool little boss, you know, like design wise, and it does kind of feel like a letdown with her moveset. Um, like when you see her enter the arena, like with the first cutscene, I expected more out of it. Um, and yeah, it's mentioned the whole going pitch black and yeah, it's so easy to deal with. Just run around in a circle and you're fine. Like only take care of your stamina in that phase. But yeah, like if you died, like if you took Gorman's offer and this was your last boss, yeah, I could imagine that it's kind of a bit of a letdown. Um, yeah, I have it in like C tier, but above Amygdala. Ugh, come on.
How is that not the good ending? How was I to know I was just going to be decapitated?
I mean, the good ending is kind of, in a way, even worse for you because you end up being a squid. How is that, a desirable state of affairs?
Whoa, we're going to lose all our squid viewers.
Yeah. Come on, what's wrong with a little bit of tentacle porn?
Of course, that's where you had to take this.
Mhm.
Well,
Let's move along.
yeah, tentacle porn is coming up with moon presence, but first we have Mikolash.
Oh dear.
Hey, we
I
got some
know.
tentacle porn on that one too.
Oh, we do, yeah. Although I guess
Um,
Mikolash is more of a tentacle hand job. Whereas moon presence really have like the vagina face.
Yeah, okay, so for Mikolash, I know that Bed of Chaos is the worst boss From have ever put out because it's essentially a broken and incomplete boss. But somehow Mikolash is even more annoying as a fucker. He is so fucking annoying. I hate Mikolash. I mean, Mikolash, as I said earlier when Ginge was away, is the reason why I never see myself returning to Bloodborne. Everything about that dude annoys me. His moveset is dreadful and full of one-shotable or one-shot potential attacks. He runs away constantly, spouting nonsense like he's yapping about cryptocurrency or something. The run back to him sucks. I hate that laugh he does. Or whatever the fuck that thing is. It is the most annoying sound I may have ever heard in a video game. Also, what is the obsession with his voice acting? He sounds like a fucking idiot to me. Like, I hate him. I don't understand why people act like, they got Charles Dance or someone over to
But that's
deliver
the
his
fun
dialogue.
thing about it.
So I do hate the laugh, but I do like his voice.
Yeah. Ghost!
I just
Or
don't
some
get it,
say
Bart. What is
Gollum!
that dialogue? What's his most iconic dialogue? Hunter
Cos,
is
or some
Hunter.
say Cosm.
Yeah, it's fucking.
So,
It's great!
yeah. Yeah, bro. I don't get it. I find it very annoying. I just hate this guy, and I wish there was a way to delete him from the game files on console because I just don't want to have to fight him ever again. Yeah, for me. Oh, by the way, and I'm trying to find something redeeming, but let me also add: the area sucks. His whole level is garbage. There's those fucking rock pelters outside. There's frenzy damage outside before you enter the castle. When you get in there, there's a pile of spiders to deal with. One of the worst NPC fights in the game to deal with. There's the run back from the shortcut is still pretty damn long. There's just nothing good about him. Yeah, he's definitely an F tier, and on some days I might say I hate him more than Bed of Chaos even.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's pretty. You could argue that he's worse than Bed of Chaos because there's a cheese for Bed of Chaos. There's a cheese for Mikolash, but I don't know. I guess no. You know what? I said that, but then I remembered what Bed of Chaos can do sometimes, even when you're doing the cheese. Yeah. So never mind. And I'm just speaking hitless terms here, but yeah, he's an F for sure. For everything you named, he has the one shot. He has the call beyond. He has the tentacles, which will probably one shot you. The puppets in that first area. Sometimes you can just go right through them with your attacks, which is absolute bullshit. And yeah, he's just running away. He just runs away from you, and there's a certain pattern you have to do before you can get to him. And then you get to him, and he runs. He doesn't even run away. He just teleports away. Then you have to go up some stupid stairs where there those kinky bitches on the stairs trying to whip you. And then you get back to him, and you get to run some more. And then he locks you in a fucking room if you run the wrong way. And then you have to kill a bunch of other people, and then you have to go all the way around. Everything looks the same. Drop down for him to fucking a call beyond you or hentai you. And then what's his other attack? He just throws some stupid fucking double hammer fist thing that looks so dumb.
Yeah.
The only thing that's cool is his cage helmet, which is so dumb.
Also, he's always yapping, bro. Why does he yap so much?
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't
He has
shut
shit
up.
to say. None of it matters, but or I guess it kind of does.
I have him in D. Like he's better than fucking Living Failures. And
No, he's not.
No way. Ain't no way.
Yeah.
Ain't no way.
He's better than Living Failures to me. Like, yeah, it's basically he's a field boss. Like his whole arena that you fight him in is just like 5 stories high. You know, it's fucking insane. But first, I want to address the fact that Nightmare of Mensis is a great area. I fucking love that thing. It's the only place, by the way, in the whole game where you can get the Blood Rock, which you need to get your gear up to, well, in the base game at least, to level 10, your weapon. And yeah.
And that's a good thing.
That's it. That's the only thing you said that's positive about the area.
No, I kind of like the spider thing. Like when you first enter that place where you open the double doors.
Drops down.
Yeah, and then you just see them hanging there, and it's like, okay, I guess I'm fucked now, but
yeah.
Okay, but that's like 1 second, and then the remainder of it is straight up garbage.
I don't mind Nightmare of Mensis. Like, I mean, the thingy, the frenzy stuff. I mean, nobody likes the Winter Lanterns. Fine, like they can go fuck off. But other than that, I don't mind it that much. Other than that, like the Mikolash fight itself, yeah, it's a lot of running around, but it does follow a certain pattern. Like in phase 1, it's quite easy to get him into the room. If you know like how to run there. Phase 2 is a little bit trickier, but phase 2 you didn't even have to get him in the room. Like you can cheese him. Like that there's a poison strat for him. And of course, I know the poison strat. I mean,
we're not talking cheeses. We've said cheeses don't count. You
Yeah,
can also
no,
get him to just run through that mirror. That's the best one. He
yeah,
just keeps on running through the same mirror, and you just hit him, and then he comes through the same mirror again. You
yeah,
hit
I
him.
know, right? It's fucking insane. But like even in a straight up fight, like yeah, the first time I dropped down in his room, like he killed me with his tentacle arms, like definitely.
Yeah.
But the second time, I knew to roll straight away. So you know,
he can still do the tentacles in first phase.
yeah,
he does it regularly. But the call beyond is new, and it's awful.
Yeah, but I think in phase 1, the tentacles or like he's a lot more passive in phase 1. I feel, because I think the game kind of expects you to deal with the little guys first. And then only then, go after him. And then, like, he only attacks them when you're actually close to him, which is a redeeming quality, in my opinion.
No. Something being slightly more bearable is not redeeming, Ginge.
But, yeah, and then phase 2, like, when you're fighting, like, a call beyond is, like, it's a one-shot if you get hit.
Ginge is the type of guy who would like look at a cancer patient and be like, at least he gets to lie around all day. That's a redeeming quality.
Silver lining, yeah.
Look, that's kind of
Happy-go-lucky Ginge.
the thing. Like when I see someone who has cancer, I I laugh at them. You know that they're about to die and that they're in misery. It makes me feel better, and it makes them feel better because they made me feel better. It's a win-win situation.
We need a Full House credits running right now.
um, but anyway, yeah, like Call Beyond is just fucking bullshit. Oi, Doc, that's not a fair quote to make. Like there's a lot
It
more.
only got worse.
Yeah.
I don't think the second half improved it any.
Yeah. At least this way it could be seen as if it was out of context, maybe. Not
I don't
even.
think anyone
No.
gives Ginge that sort of credit, Killer. Nobody assumes anything he says is out of context.
Yeah, well, I guess that makes his takes more. They make more sense because they are cancerous. Fucking poor
Wow.
Steven.
But yeah, I don't know. I just didn't hate him as much as you guys apparently do. Like it's incessant yappering is annoying as fuck. Yeah, it is. But yeah, and I kind of like his laugh as well. It's just creepy and annoying enough to make me want to kill him. Like it's an incentive to kill him.
Progressing the game is the incentive to kill everybody.
Well, yeah, okay, but yeah. Nikolai is the
Also,
kind of guy I
he's
love to
already
hate.
dead. You see him dead first, and then
Yeah.
he whines about waking up. Just wake up and die and let Gehrman cut off your head. That's the good ending.
Yeah. I mean, I never thought there would be a scenario where I would feel the need to defend living failures. But hey, bro, there's no way living failures are worse than Mikolash. Even his name is annoying, bro. Mikolash just sounds fucking annoying to
Oh
say.
no! The name I'm good with. The name, the voice I'm good with. The laugh is bad. The whining at the end. I'll forget everything. Actually, you know what? Now that I said, I like that too. Just the laugh I don't like.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
going into deer
boy.
for me. Sorry, guys.
That's wrong, but okay.
Yeah, that's flat out wrong.
Yeah, like it's the only wrong take I've had this entire series, according to you guys.
Yeah.
Tentacle monster, moon presence.
Very imposing visually. I like the cutscene at the beginning where he almost sort of descends from the moon, or at least it looks like that. I love the little. I have like a still of that scene where he's juxtaposed against the moon. I think it looks very cool. I love that he's a secret final boss that you need to do certain things to trigger, though doing those things requires perhaps a guide, as much as Miyazaki would have you believe it doesn't. But the fight itself is dreadfully boring again. I'm not a huge fan of the mechanic wherein he prevents you from using your blood vials for a period of time. As him being an oversized boss, it's not always clear when he's pulling out that attack, at least for me. But the worst part, and I think this is the worst thing I could say about him, is it doesn't even matter if you get hit by that attack, because he's just a joke of a boss. Like, it's a very easy fight. Anyone who has reached him is more than equipped to take him down very quickly. I know countless people who actually beat German and then with hardly any vials left managed to put him down as well, him being in presence. So yeah, it's just, it commits the sin of being uninteresting. For me, Steve.
Yeah, he does have that attack that brings you to 1 HP.
Yeah.
No matter what. It can't kill you. So it's like a scare. And they also just fucking sit there for a while after they do it so you can heal. But yeah, it's kind of bullshit. I kind of understand the reasoning behind it, and it kind of works because it does just, make you panic. But yeah, the fight itself, I didn't like. It wasn't hard. Like, it was easy, but I don't think it's as free as people make it if you don't know the fight. I'm trying to rationalize me dying a couple times before I beat it on my first playthrough. But yeah, it looks super cool. The cutscene is really cool. Like, both of the cutscenes are really cool. They're pretty identical, but yeah, the way its fight mechanics are, yeah, they're fine. It's a big beast that runs around. Probably a C. It has a good arena.
Which just
Yeah.
so happens to be Garmin's as well, and without any
I gotta give
issues.
it points for it, right?
Yeah. 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 Like I've died to this thing a couple of times too. Um, and yeah, it does sit around quite a bit after like doing its whole one shot, or near one shot thing. Um, but its damage output is significant enough to still pose a threat. I feel like he is manageable, but it does when he actually manages to connect, he can do some pretty okay damage. Um, and yeah, the cutscene is great. Like depending on your umbilical cords, well, what he does next, like you either yeah, it's either fight him or not fight him. But yeah, I have him in C as well. Like he doesn't. It's just a fight. Like that there's some bullshit in there, but there's some good things in there. It's yeah. You don't have to fight him if you don't want to. He's C tier, above Amygdala, but yeah. I don't really have anything to say about Moon Presence, weirdly enough. Uh,
Kind of telling about it.
Yeah.
which brings us to Orphan of Cause.
Cause is a banger. He's a great boss from a lore POV, from a visual design POV, from an arena POV. He's very tough, but I think at the same time, quite fair. He's a boss that you derive a lot of pleasure from learning because when you do finally learn him, you see openings that weren't readily apparent to you initially and that you can punish quite effectively. I like the progression in the fight from aggressive to more aggressive to batshit crazy in your face on crack. I think that's a lot of fun to deal with. Um, and, you know, while I didn't like it in the case of Lawrence and certainly in the case of Mikolash, I think his shriek is kind of iconic in Bloodborne. It also makes sense that he has a shriek from a lore POV, I suppose. So I'm willing to excuse that. I think it's definitely an S tier fight for me.
Yeah, it's just everything is good except the scream. And I don't know, like, I guess I like his weapon now, but it's fucking shrimp. He's just holding a shrimp. And it makes even less sense when it's a placenta. Why is it so sharp? I'm not a doctor, but I don't think that's how it works. Other than that, yeah, he's really cool moveset. It's very satisfying when you finally beat him. I don't think there's a lot of people first trying or even first 5 to 10 trying. But yeah, it's it's satisfying to learn all his moves, and if he didn't scream so much, it'd be a lot better. Don't think it's enough to take him out of S, but he's definitely my lowest S. But yeah, his face transitions are cool. I like how they ramp everything up and his aesthetic as he's going through the phases. He has a cool move set as well. I really like it.
Mm. Yeah. Um, and honestly, I do get the whole placenta thing. Like, I walk around beating people with a placenta all the time. Not my own, as Cos does. Like, I actually have to go to the maternity ward and fish them out of the medical waste. But
Yes.
As you do.
as you do, yeah. Um, it is like the design is cool. The fact that he's fighting you with his own placenta is it's kind of a neat little thing. You know, it fits into Bloodborne. You know that the Great One. Well, the new Great One gets born and then starts wailing on you with his own fucking placenta. It kind of makes sense in the lore of Bloodborne. And yeah, the fight is just an amazing. Like, yeah, he goes batshit crazy when he face transitions. Like, he has some moves where I'm like, okay, that's a bit dodgy. But yeah, overall the fight is just amazing. Great way to finish that. No, not finish the DLC, is it? I mean, you can do it as last boss, but yeah, thematically it makes sense. Like fighting him in there on that beach, like him crawling out of his mother's corpse in the beginning. It's it's S tier. Placenta soap exists. Yes, so it does. And I hear apparently that it's a trend, like in the countryside as well, to take your placenta home and bury it in the garden or in like a flower box and then plant roses.
Some
then,
people eat it.
Yeah, I've heard that
Kim
too.
Kardashian started that, the whole placenta pills thing.
I mean,
So weird.
I would not
Once
eat
again,
it.
I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
But judging by Bloodborne, I feel like it's too sharp to eat.
Yeah, the pills thing, there's no scientific basis for it. It's just like an urban myth that it, increases the immunity of the child, and on this basis for it. But it is an option now that at least hospitals in the US offer you, if you want, where they basically take the placenta and have it made into pills at your expense.
I'm gonna ask if they can make my child's into a weapon. What weapon options are there as far as this placenta goes?
I kind of wonder if I can make that 12-hour stew with it.
Oh wow!
I think we move on before
could.
you say something even more unsavory.
Yeah, more unsavory than killing cancer patients.
Yeah, wait, isn't that, by the way, a thing? That is a story I've heard that actually, like, not just making them into pills, but actually like baking it and eating it.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to. It's something like that I had heard.
Yeah,
I don't know about baking it. I don't know how it works, but
how do I put this charitably? I think that's the low socioeconomic status way of doing it. Whereas
some people are on the go. Okay, they don't have time. They got stuff they got to do.
Yeah, because the pills actually cost a lot of money. You have to pay for storage for the placenta, which is quite expensive, and then you have to pay for the processing of the placenta into pills. Here in SF, it costs about $2,500, which is beyond the means of a lot of people.
Wait, if you know the price there, have you and your wife looked into this when you had your kid?
I would look into it to sell
offered. Yeah, as I mentioned, Ginge, it's offered by the hospital. They're legally required to mention that it's an option. So they made us aware. Oh, there is actually, I should mention, there is one legitimate reason for keeping the placenta, because the placenta is a big store of blood cells for your child, and if your child ends up suffering from low blood cells, they can extract some from the placenta and provide it to them, which boosts their immunity against very, very bad diseases that they can get saddled with, including leukemia. So people sometimes do store their placenta for that reason, but the chance of that happening to your child is very, very low, especially given the number of tests they do these days. So a lot of people still don't get it done.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's so expensive
You hear
to store
that?
the placenta.
Everybody, just stay in the womb. It's not worth the troubles.
yeah.
Stay in the womb, or make sure your parents have $2,500
Yeah.
laying around.
Yeah, you can peek your head out, ask, maybe see if there's a nice watch. If not, you just go right back in there.
Yeah,
Burrow
my
back
doctor,
like the groundhog.
my wife's OBGYN, who is very, very well off, she's an OBGYN herself, and her husband's an emergency room doctor. She told us that she didn't store her placenta for the first child and did for the second, and she said that that was only because she had, plenty of money lying around for the second child. I thought that was pretty telling, because it's basically, one of those things that's good to do, but it's not required.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, about the eating though, like, can you imagine that one of your coworkers come back from like paid maternity leave, and it's like lunchtime, and they open their lunchbox, and it's like, oh, what are you having?
I don't think you have to mark that one if you put it in the fridge. I think it'll get left.
Yeah.
I wonder if it smells like salmon in the oven, in the microwave.
Oh God, can you imagine? Like, people don't like it when you microwave your fish or something. Imagine doing a placenta.
You don't even know. How do you know?
I don't know. Don't you think it would
what if it
smell?
smells delicious? I don't fucking know.
I can guarantee there's at least somebody who's done it in like Florida or Ohio or somewhere, and it
Yeah.
made like the local news.
Yeah, Florida man.
Yeah. Florida man microwaves his child's placenta. I can see that. Yeah, I can see that being a headline. And then, like if you cook it, wouldn't it kind of look like a meatloaf? So
Okay.
it could be that if you put it in the fridge, that people might steal it and eat it.
Okay, we're starting a GoFundMe. We need $2,500 to get Ginge to shut up about placenta.
He seems unhealthily interested.
He really wants one.
Wait, okay, and now I have to ask Glenn: is a Yankee placenta candle an actual thing?
I'm sure Gwyneth has it.
Let's move on before we get clipped.
I really just thought he was trying to time it out to try and get to Parl.
Rom.
Yeah. Oh my god, another one of the really annoying bosses of Bloodborne. Visually quite impressive. I like how you get to him by jumping into the water and realizing there's sort of a floor underneath that you can survive on and fight. I do sort of like his lore, again, with the caveat that I'm not an expert of Bloodborne lore. But yeah, the fight is very, very boring and very, very annoying, especially as you have to do a bit of vermin extermination or spider extermination, if you will, in order to engage in it. He has a ranged attack that I despise. It's those little like explosion-y things that he does that if you get hit by, do a truckload of damage.
They're ice cold spears, aren't they?
Beg your pardon?
I think they're ice spears or ice blocks.
Yeah, they
he has
could
a
be.
couple different attacks.
Yeah, suffice it to say, I like none of them. I find them quite annoying to deal with. I don't want to hold the boss responsible, but I also think Bergenworth was a real disappointment as an area. It's perhaps the most important area lore-wise from Bloodborne's stories POV, but when you get there, you realize it's literally just a fucking building that's empty with one very overpowered NPC and then ROM. But yeah, factoring all of that in, I've got to give ROM a C minus.
I'm starting to think a call beyond is shit. Because that NPC has a call beyond,
Yeah.
right, guys? It's almost like
Yeah.
it's a bad move.
I don't know, do an arcane playthrough and you'll love a Call Beyond.
Yeah. Yeah, Rom, everything you named, it's annoying. You have to deal with all the spiders to get to her. You can run in and YOLO it if you want, which is viable, I guess. But she does have that AoE. She has the rain when you get to range. But if you want to YOLO it with the spiders, there's a very good chance you're gonna die because their jump up definitely has one shot potential if you don't have a lot of vigor. And yeah, it's just then she'll teleport away, and it's just it's a bad fight. Honestly, it's like a D minus, barely staying in D for me. It's a very annoying fight. Her head doesn't take damage. She's got a stupid moveset. It's bad. The arena looks cool. The original Renala. I don't like that. Yeah, I didn't know to jump off that. I understand Willem fucking points there, but does he? It's just not intuitive to jump off there. I guess it kind of is, but I think it's done. But yeah, D minus, D minus minus.
Yeah, I have him in D as well. And then regarding like jumping off there, like I don't think it's intuitive, but the NPC does tell you. Like, I mean, it doesn't tell you, but it points. Like, hey, you need to go that way. And I think that it kind of helps there. But it's just annoying. Like, I think the fight would be better if you didn't have those little spiders and just make him like 10% more aggressive. That you can just run in and start pummeling him, that he actually has a decent enough moveset that he forces you to back off from time to time and actually, is capable of damaging you. But yeah, the little spiders have the whole jumping and then jumping up and then head smashing you. It's definitely one shot potential. And then, I mean, technically, yeah, you can go in and YOLO, but when Rom does that, one of his AoEs, the spiders do have the potential of keeping you like locked into that AoE because they're, barring the way to run out. If you have to like run around him first in order to get out and then get away from the little spiders, like you're not gonna get out in time. It's just a fight each time you have to do, but I don't think anyone particularly enjoys doing it. So he's going into D tier.
Yeah, and having to fight her on blood level 4 in the dungeon is terrible. There's so much shit in your way, it's the worst. And you get one shot by everything.
Wait, in the dungeon? And
in one of the chalice dungeons.
Why would you fight her then at blood level 4? That's totally optional.
No, I know. I was trying to get to I forget what I was trying to get in the chalices, but to beat her, I wanted to get it to boost my gems, maybe? I forget what it was I was going in there. But yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible even leveled. The Chalice dungeon.
Yeah, I think
there's just not enough room.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I know like that there is a build for blood level 4 where you need like a gem and you get like the chalice to get the gem. Like it's not in the ROM dungeon, I think. It's like
no, it's
you have to
past
defeat
there,
ROM in order to
get
get you
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have to do that one to get to it. I think it's like a 27% boost or something like that. I
yeah,
forget what it was, but it was something to give me more damage because I was getting my shit kicked by Martyr Lugarius, which is also optional, but I wanted to do all bosses.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I think it's yeah. I think it's in
getting
one
my
of the
shit rocked by
chapters.
Lugarius and Ludwig, I'm actually still stuck there. But then I
Oh, yeah.
started doing the hit list.
Um.
Yeah,
So
side note that stretch in the game where you fight, not in this order necessarily. I'm not sure what the correct order is, but Rom, uh, Mikolash, Rom, One Reborn, Mikolash, and Murgo's Wet Nurse has to be, in terms of four bosses back to back, one of the worst stretches in FromSoft history for me. I just find that entire stretch so
And
thoroughly
you
underwhelming.
have shadows before that, which
Yeah,
I
yeah, and
like.
yeah, it's
We'll
just a
get to that.
terrible lineup, especially late in the game. You know, when everything's kind of headed towards the finale.
yeah, I mean, I guess it's like Rom and then possibly Amygdala you can do first. Then like yeah, Mikolash, Murgos. I mean, depending on how you go, then like Celestial is in there as well. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, even factoring those in, that actually I think makes it even worse. Looking even at our tier list, Amygdala and Celestial Emissary being added in, for example, actually makes it even worse when you think about it.
yeah, yeah. And then speaking of shadows, I mean, we read them.
Uh,
Wait, should we ask Brett to join the call now? I know we've lost many god runs to shadows.
yeah, I mean, in his defense, it is one of the hardest bosses to hitless. There's just so many things that you have to account for, and I'm sure Killer will address that when he gets there, or when the mic's over his way. From my perspective, I enjoy the fight to a decent extent. I like the variety between the three of them. They generally speaking space out quite well from a casual POV, not a hitless POV, obviously. None of them are especially aggressive or tanky, so fighting each of them isn't too bad. You can parry them, which is fun. But I have two big criticisms. One is the snakes in phase two, who sort of come unannounced and can basically one shot you. I don't like them. I don't enjoy dealing with them, and uh, as a casual, I'm not entirely sure how you can kind of avoid them. They just sort of pop up, and then you're forced to contend with, this additional problem. Um, and then the run back is just very, very long and boring again for no good reason. They really need to stop with those. It just, makes the fight that much more painful. But overall, I think as far as gang fights go, they're one of the more tolerable ones for me. I'd probably give them a B minus.
Yeah, so for me, I'll go on the hit list stuff. For hit lists, they're the fucking worst. It's just they're so like you can try and script it, but they'll not cooperate. In the first phase, it's not so bad. Like getting them down, it's annoying because you're just running in a circle, which actually trained me pretty well with camera control. You get pretty good at it, trying to just spare chat the fucking jumping camera, so you're trying to move smoothly. So it does help out with that and with the rest of the fights, which is cool. But the phase transition is brutal because you have to kill them, because if not, they get their spaghetti arms, which are annoying because they have too much range. And then the third phase is the snakes, which there's no way to dodge them properly. You have to shoot them before to knock them out of it. Because if not, you're just running in a direction and hoping not to get hit. I don't know that there's actually a consistent dodge for it. But hitless out of it, casually, The arena is good. I think they give you some tools to actually separate them, and you got that big grave. You can block out the guy who's firing it. You can split them apart and hit them. I think their health pools. I think their health pools could have been a little smaller. They're not overly tanky, but for what they have them doing, they could have had it a little smaller, especially with the way they phase transition and the attacks they get in that second phase, because you can separate them pretty well, but once they have those spaghetti arms, you can separate them, but they'll still hit you, kind of thing. So, yeah, that the way their AI interacts, I say is good. It's pretty decent, but yeah, just a few of the design choices they took, I did not like. The snake attack is absolute bullshit. Spaghetti arms should have been a little shorter. Uh, put it like a C minus, a C. Yeah, a C. In a hit list, it's an F minus.
Yeah. I have them in B. I like the fights, like that they're three the same characters, but they're different enough to be, manageable and fun to interact with. You can like split them up a bit, like with the big pillar to the side there. I never really had a problem with the snake attack in phase 3. Like I kind of think it's well enough telegraphed, and you can just knock them out with a single bullet. That they're very variable, like that their parry windows or very distinct, and then easy enough to deal with. Like if you're out in the open, like yeah, you're gonna get clipped by a lot of stuff, like mainly the fireballs. But yeah, I don't really ever had much of a problem with the fight. I enjoyed it, and yeah, it's like the way they interact with each other. As Killah points out, like the AI between them is good. Like it's one of those. Like I don't want to say it's a gang fight because I don't really feel that it's a gang fight. But it's definitely like yeah, it's a trio of bosses together, and then like we've seen this in previous games of From Software, where the interaction between the bosses, if you're working with multiple bosses, is just utter trash. But I don't have that feeling in Shadow of Yharnam. So yeah, for me they deserve a B tier.
Honestly, how close they are to the actual Gank Squad, I'm realizing, is a lot more than I thought. But Gank Squad has less bullshit.
Wait, you think that they're close to like gangs DS2 gang squads?
Yeah. You have the one guy doing ranged attacks, the other two follow you, and one's a little quicker than the other. They do separate sometimes. The one thing about Gank Squad is you have like levels you can drop down to avoid them. That said, it's easier to use the environment in Shadows. It's flatter, but you still have the obstacles that you can get in the way. In Gank Squad, you can get in scenarios where you have to walk by that archer, and he's very quick with his attacks.
Yeah.
But I think it's very similar as far as how the AI interacts.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
neither had I, Glenn. It was just now when we were talking about it.
yeah, I'd never considered that either. Like I can see the similarities, yeah. But would you then say that you like the gang squad of DS2 more than Shadows?
As far as hit list,
Both.
Hitless Gank Squad is easier. It's more consistent. It's the same thing the whole way through.
Yeah.
This one has phases, and then it has the snake. I think I was being a little too generous with the C. No, I said a C minus. Yeah, that's about what it is. The attacks there are really bullshit
All right.
in phase 2 and 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I never draw the parallel between the two, but yeah, now that you mention it, and then yeah. But I also think that like because Gang Squad has like three basic like I mean yeah, you got like the hard hitting one, the one in the Havel suit. You got like the fast one. I think like the Havel thing is what kind of brings Gang Squad down for me. And the range, because I feel like the range guy is a lot more hassle to deal with than well in the Gang Squads than in Shadows. And I don't also like dealing with the Havel guy. Like he hits like a motherfucker.
I think in Gank Squad they should have had less health.
Yeah. Or they just shouldn't have healed. The fact that they heal is very annoying as well.
Yeah, I don't get to see that a lot. They don't really heal for some reason.
Mm,
When I'm fighting them for the hitless.
yeah. Doc, anything to add?
Not really.
Okay. Right. Brings us to the one reborn then.
Yeah, I did not enjoy the one reborn at all. I think again it looks uh, sort of impressive, but also sort of lazy at the same time. But I'm gonna err on the side of impressive, purely from a visual POV. But mechanically, it's essentially Tower Knight, with a new sort of central move set, but the same core concept. It hits very hard and has a lot of HP, so that makes it a bit of a tedious fight for me for how uninteresting it is to engage with. And the run back, dearie me, the run back. The run back has to be probably the worst in Bloodborne for just how long it takes to get to the boss. Yeah, I would probably place this one in a D or D plus, probably a D tier situation.
And then let's take a moment here. Optimus, congrats on getting the first part of your pilot's license. Well done, dude. GG.
Congrats. Yeah, the one reborn is pretty much what Doc said. I do like the cutscene. It's kind of horrible in a good way, very grotesque. The way the fight works is it's Tower Knight, but then afterward the fight is he has some really bad attacks. The one where he shoots the poison all over the ground, like just pools it, that one's annoying. I find it kind of hard to see his attacks. I forget what they look like now because in Hitless you just stagger him to death. He does have a lot of limbs that you can break, so if you do have the damage, you can make it a non-issue. And I suppose that's fun sometimes. But yeah, the attacks aren't very enjoyable, and the gimmick isn't great. So I'd have to go D.
Uh, yeah, Optimus, don't worry about not being here as much, dude. Like, I always appreciate it as anyone watches. I'm not that entertaining to begin with. It's only because these guys are on call right now that anyone is watching, so, yeah. I can see a case for D, I can see a case for C, like, I think for me it's gonna be C. Like, yeah, he has some, like, bullshit moves. You start off, killing the girls on top. then running down and then facing him in kind of head on. I don't even know where his head is half the time. Um, but yeah, he does have a lot of limbs that you can like break to get those staggers off. Um, and like it's the whole Dorkby's Pearl thing again. Like if you have the damage to quickly break his limbs, you're gonna have an easier time with it. But yeah, if you don't get those staggers off quick enough, or like I think a lot of people don't actually know like what they're doing in order to like first time players in particular. I don't think they really know the fact of like okay you need to break like the legs. Both for Darkbeast Pearl as for the one Reborn as for Amelia later on. Like I don't think that the game really explains that a lot. Um, so for like first players or casual players who don't really know the game that well or don't know FromSoft that well, I think it isn't that obvious. Like what you're doing in order to get those staggers. But yeah, it's a throwaway fight. Like I don't actively hate it, but I also don't like enjoy my time with it. So yeah, I'm saying C tier, um, bottom of C. And also when he gets born, like he falls out of the sky and kind of gets born that way, right? It,
Yeah,
where is it? Where is
Yep.
his placenta?
he comes out of like a moon. Where's its placenta? Right? It ate it
Ginge
probably.
asking the real questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, so it brings us to Vicar Amelia.
I like Vicar Amelia. It's considered by many to be the first sort of skill check in the mid part of the game. I don't find it to be a particularly challenging boss personally, but what she does have going for her is a very kind of impressive boss design from an artistic standpoint. The arena looks kind of cool. You're essentially fighting in a cathedral, which I think is kind of nice and cinematic. Um, she's a fair fight. She's got some good moves. Nothing particularly special or memorable, but nothing that offends or puts me off either. I'd say she's a flat eight here. You know, a good boss, but not particularly inspirational in her overall design.
Yeah, I think A is good. Her cutscene is amazing. So good.
Mm.
Her attacks, yeah, you can deal with them. Some of them, anytime with just a big enemy, sometimes you can have camera problems. The arena is nice. Sometimes you can get caught in positions where you're gonna have a bad time. And she does have that kind of, uh, like she has her rags all over her, right? So it can get in the way of what you're looking at. But if you're fighting at a good distance, then you can get. It's easy to see. You can react to all the moves. The one thing that almost drops her to a B is just the healing. I don't like it. I don't like when bosses can heal. And if it was just once, it wouldn't be so bad. But I'm pretty sure she can just keep on doing it.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's a difficult fight. Her moves are consistent. The hitboxes, I think the hitboxes are fine. I don't remember finding anything particularly wrong with them. Um, her aggression is kind of hot and cold, which is good. You get like just spans where she's all over you, her combos, and then yeah, you get a few seconds to collect yourself. But yeah, I'd say a low A, high B.
Yeah. Like I'm for me it's an A. Um, like yeah, the cutscene is just amazing. Like the whole bursting out of her skin, basically. Um, I love it. Yeah, the fight is just yeah, it's fun fighting like that boss. Like it's a big boss, but it doesn't have, like, in my opinion, it doesn't have the the problems that a lot of the bigger bosses in FromSoft has, like with like camera issues and stuff like that. Um, the moveset, like, I don't feel like she has any bullshit moves. Like, there's nothing coming your way that you can't see coming. Um, I even don't really mind the healing. Like, from a standpoint of, like, she's basically a clerk or a cleric or whatever the correct term is there. Like, it kind of makes sense.
I think she's a
Um,
vicar.
yeah, I mean that's clergy. So he heals. Clergy heals. She leveled Fade up very high. Not that you have that in Bloodborne, but details. But yeah, it kind of makes sense that she can. It kind of makes sense that she heals, and then yeah, she can do it often, but you can stagger her out of it. And if you have the damage for it, the healing doesn't even matter that much. It just makes the fight last longer.
I definitely didn't have that damage for it on my first playthrough.
Yeah.
You can also get her. Well, this is hitless strats again. I shouldn't be talking about them. But her limbs also break. I think any of the big enemies that's true.
Mm, yeah. I was just thinking about some. Right. I think it kind of depends, like, whether or not you have the damage on where you went, because you can do the whole Witches of Hemwick and the castle thing before you actually fight Amelia. You can get a +8 before you fight Amelia. Like, you're not gonna
Would
do
you
it.
though? Who
Yeah,
would do that? There's that giant cathedral right ahead of you. You'd have to walk up to it and then just turn instead.
yeah. That is something. Like, I mean, I think if you're struggling with like Vicar, I think you would. Um,
Yeah, that I can definitely see. If you don't have the damage, at least you have somewhere to go,
yeah,
which is good.
but yeah, I don't think, like, on the first playthrough, like, you see the cathedral, you see. I mean, for people who've played FromSoft games, you know that there's a boss in there. Um, but yeah, if you're struggling, I think you would, like, go to those both sides and then pick up some extra stuff.
Yeah, go to the right side and die, and then go to the left side and do things.
You can make it through the right side.
Isn't that where the two NPCs are?
Yeah.
And then when you get to the end, it's just the fucking amygdala that'll kill you. It's
Uh,
hidden.
yeah,
Isn't
but
that the end of that way?
yeah. Like, you can die by that amygdala, I guess, but
Yeah, those two NPCs are fucking brutal.
yeah. I mean, that
So
they are,
annoying.
like, variable, and you can fight one at a time.
Yeah, that Tonatress is
Oh yeah.
OP.
I wonder if that's intentional, because Amelia. I mean, it is intentional, the placement, of course, but like, Amelia is weak to lightning.
Isn't she weaker to fire?
I mean, she's weaker to fire, but she is definitely also weak to lightning.
Yeah,
Like, I think all the beast enemies are weak to fire.
fire. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, but
So you
yeah.
said A for that one?
Yeah, I'm putting her into A. Which already brings us to the final boss. Witch of Hemwick.
This is a joke of a boss, really. A very, very sad excuse for a boss, if I'm honest. I can't even say it looks very appealing. It's really an old crone who looks like she's wearing a shell that she picked up at the local Goodwill. Um, and some ads who somehow managed to do a lot of damage. I think actually the only good part of this boss is that you can despawn the boss, like it won't aggro or exist really if you do certain things. But outside of that, yeah, there's just nothing very positive to say. I think I'd go with a D minus. It's just such a sorry excuse.
Yeah, it's not very good. It's kind of cool that depending on your insight, you can have people there. So if you're having trouble with it, just spend all your insight, and then there'll be like one dude there. I think I forget how it works, or there might even be none. I
None.
forget how it works, but it's not a particularly great fight. D, it's a gimmick fight, so it gets some leeway, but yeah.
Yeah, like if you go in with insight, it's a different type of fight than when you go in with like no insight. Like yeah, with no insight, none of them spawn in, and it's just like finding her and beating her ass. And if you do like a charged or two, you're gonna stagger her with one hit, get a backstab off, or riposte and rinse and repeat. It's so easy to get her down if you have like no insight on you. Um, and even if you do have insight, like I don't think the mobs like make it that much harder. Like they kind of take away a lot of the timing you can have to do like excuse me, you can do to have like the charge or two, but um like even if you just hit the witch a couple of times, you know, with just or once, like you're gonna get her down in a matter of minutes. Um,
The tough thing is if there's dudes there, they can cast that spell, the witches, to hold you there, and
yeah,
then you can get fucked up pretty quick, depending on how many of them there are.
yeah, that's true. Um, yeah, but yeah, I mean it's still an easy thing to dodge though. Like if you can see it coming.
Yeah. Well, they do teleport around. It's
Yeah,
tough to find them sometimes. But yeah, it's just bad.
yeah, it's basically a high stakes hide and seek kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of return to it with the snail in Elden Ring.
Yeah. I prefer Witch of Hemlock, honestly, to the snail.
Yeah, the
Um,
snail sucks too.
Yeah.
it kind of depends, doesn't it?
They're both D.
Like Spirit
Yeah.
Caller Snail boss fights, I don't like because you kind of have to fight both the godskins in order to find the snail. But like in the cave
Yeah,
itself in
yeah, you
Spirit
can just
Callers,
ignore him. Yeah.
yeah,
I don't like the one with the crucible either. That's annoying as well.
Yeah.
yeah,
I actually never found the Godskin one, so we'll see how that goes on rune level 1.
Wait, you never done
Plus 0.
the Spirit Caller cave?
No, I didn't know that was a thing.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's one of the worst, side content areas in the game. I think the only one that I hate more is the yellow annex tunnel with Estelle in consecrated snowfields because Estelle is just tanky as fuck in that tunnel.
I don't mind
Yeah,
stealth
well, if you
fights.
want to see somebody fighting a snail for 8 hours, tune in.
Yeah, we've seen someone fight like two Crucible Knights for what was it, 12 hours?
Maybe, I don't know. That one was spread out.
Yeah, I mean, I've been there. I watched this guy try to punch Mesmer over 100 times to death, and you know, ended up having to wear all the oversized armor, all of the defensive spells in the game. It was just so sad to watch. It was just pitiable.
Yeah,
I've been there.
and then still this guy needed to get to plus 18 Skadu 3 blessing to do it.
Yeah. Needed Skibidi level 18.
Yeah,
Oh my god. And the guy, this guy, he'd been insisting that Mesta is like a pushover and anyone can clap him, and then lo
It's
and
just
behold,
too
it took
easy. That's what it is.
over 100 attempts. It was quite
I
miserable.
don't think it was over 100 attempts to be fair. But anyway,
Yeah, it was
Witches of
over 100.
Hamwick. um, I mean, I don't have that much of a problem with a fight. It's like just throw away. I don't hate it. I don't dislike. I don't love it. It's kind of on par with the one Reborn for me. Like I know that might be a bit, but yeah. The thing that's good about it is that you get that like workshop tool after fighting, after killing them, right?
Yeah, what does that give you?
Um, it's either to put gems in your weapon or to equip runes. One of the two. I can't remember.
Probably runes, because I don't fuck with them, but we have gems in the hit list.
Yeah.
I think it's runes because you pick up one of the runes before fighting them in that area too.
Yeah, you get the workshop tool after, which gets you the gems after you beat Gascoigne. It's in one of those chests, isn't it? Before you get to the ward.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty fair telling of the Bloodborne story. A lot of aggressively mid bosses and then a few absolute bangers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's very middle loaded.
Yeah, that middle to late game stretch with those 4 bosses I mentioned, and really 5 or 6 if you throw in Shadows and Celestial Emissary and the Breezes. That's bad. That's really bad. And I think if there was no DLC involved, as there wasn't at launch, that must have left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths.
I think that's also because with this game, it's much more big bosses, and I think just historically in these games, big bosses don't fare as well as like human size or close to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like if we look at like the S and the A tier, like we have 2 bigger bosses in there, but everything else is basically like a human boss. Like
Yeah.
except for Shadows, none of the human type bosses, well, and Mikolash, or like below B tier.
Oh, you fucked up. You accidentally put Mikolash in D. You might want to move that down.
Uh,
Yeah,
I
that
wish
could be
that,
really embarrassing, Ginge. You might get
Yeah.
clipped or something. Just like move it
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah. I don't think they'll
uh,
notice if you do it right now.
I
I
think
don't
I'm
think you'll
gonna.
lose all your viewers if you get rid of that right now.
I mean, I only lose all my viewers when you start streaming, Killa.
Well, Mary wouldn't be here if I was.
Yeah, neither would I, dude. I'd be hopping off the wall myself.